Yeah, thanks, Chris, for taking this time. Yeah, we're in a really interesting moment in history right now, and especially for me personally, where so much of my life in this last year has shrank. It's gotten
Hmm.
smaller, right? The spheres of people that I'm interacting with, the things that I'm doing, and things are starting to change in my own life. I'm starting to grow out of them. I'm starting to connect with friends I
Mm.
haven't seen in months. And there's all this kind of healing work that's going to be done in the next few months or year, and dealing with the ebb and flow of emotions and the complexities of that, reclaiming our life and finding the next, the next movement in our history, so to speak. A lot of things come up, and I think of the tools that I was able to learn during the last cohort that you put together, which was awesome. And I think just going in a little bit of how emotional awareness can be useful in this time of healing and this time of coming back together and, reclaiming ourselves.
Yeah. I just thanks, man. I'm just feeling into that ebb and flow of emotions. What was underneath that for you? Like when you said the ebb and flow of emotions.
Yeah, well, I'd say one thing is a part of me got a little bit numb because
Hmm.
so much was happening. Like, we're in a pandemic, Oregon had a wildfire, then there was like protests and this and that, and it's like there's too much to handle. So
Yeah,
it's more
numb.
like shrinking emotionally.
That's it right there.
Yeah,
That
and as it's coming back, it's like, oh, I'm opening into people. Oh, wait, that's too much. Oh, I'm opening again. That's the ebb and flow.
yeah.
The yeah,
Yeah.
it's like working out, right? There's an expansion where it's like, okay, I worked out too much today. I need tomorrow off.
Yeah. So it's right that one word you just said there of numb, right?
Mhm.
To just relate this to the stuff that we do in the Unshakable Man and the hard way and the open way, right? So I just did it backwards, but the hard way and the open way, right? And that word numb, to me, what you're giving there is that is uh, I noticed that it was almost like you didn't think it was enough, right? Like to say I was just numb, right? Like all these other emotions matter more, but that is an emotion: numbness, overwhelm, tightness. It's too much. So what do? We harden, right? And what we do within the Unshakable Man and within this program is we create spaces where men can take safe risks of vulnerability, right? And we say that we do this to discover our true power, to connect, heal, and grow. But it's like, what does that really mean? Right. And to me, what it means is that we are human beings with these bodies that get wounded. I can cut, and like moving throughout my life is a challenging experience, right? Like I was just walking across the street outside. It was really nice out. I was thinking about coming in here to talk to you. And I had to stop and look both ways to like not get hit by a car on a beautiful sunny day, because now there's traffic again, right? And before I used to just be able to walk across the street. And what did I do? I hardened. And so what I'd love to talk about is that we have the hard way and we have the open way. And the hard way and the open way, they're both challenging. Okay. The hard way doesn't mean that it's hard. It means that the body hardens in response to its environment. And so anytime I have a problem, right? I say I have a problem with the parking ticket I just got, with the way that my partner is speaking to me in the kitchen while I'm washing dishes, and it triggers something, right? Somebody at work, right? Anytime I notice myself saying I have a problem is an opportunity to notice that hardening. And living consciously is making the choice to open to that hardening, right? And we do that with our breath. And by exhaling, right? And if you want to, I'd love to invite you to just give yourself a single big exhale and then inhale in your nose, and to let that tension go, right? And then that within that space, there's a gap, right? And Viktor Frankl talks about this a lot, famous psychologist and author and writer. But what we're doing in the program with Unshakable Man is we're creating opportunities over 8 weeks, 3 different types of opportunities, one in a classroom, one in neurosomatic breathwork, and one in a men's group, where we get an opportunity to slow down and to check in with whatever is present for us. And then from that place, and from that place of presence, things come in. We bring things in. We bring in challenges. And then we get to practice choosing the open way, right? We get to practice taking a breath, inhaling, exhaling, noticing everything going on inside my body and mind, and then choosing that open path. And some questions we like to ask ourselves are like, what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it in your body? What do you need? What do you want? What is this here to teach me? What is my intention here? How can I show up in a more empowering way? And when we get to witness a group of men all with different experiences, we also get to connect on how similar we are, and we feel less alone. And so it becomes easier to choose to open, right? And then this experience affects us, right? And that's why we call it an 8-week transformational emotional awareness training program for men.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, and I was recognizing when you were talking about all that, you brought up, an emotional awareness and the different feelings. Can you kind of break that down a little bit for me of the differences between those two things and how they interplay?
Yeah. So one of the misconceptions, one of the things I'd love to bring up is just how often we talk about how we feel. And oh, I feel this, or oh, I feel that. I feel angry. I feel anxious. I feel stressed, right? And yet, what is an emotion, right? What is it? And if anybody's listening to this and watching, I really invite you right now to just think about like, wait, what is an emotion? And I'll just bring this in that even emotions researchers don't yet agree on what an emotion is. And so we use the definition from Dr. Eve Ekman and her research with the Dalai Lama over 10 years on just what do emotions researchers agree on. And her definition of an emotion is that it's a physical sensation that's happening in my body, that my mind, not my brain, my mind, which could be anywhere, but it's usually for most of us behind our eyes because we operate from our visual sense, my mind is consciously aware of or subconsciously aware of, that is telling my brain that something important is happening to my body's well-being, right? So it's a physical sensation that's happening in my body that my mind is consciously aware of, that's telling my brain that something important is happening to the body's well-being. And so when we're in these circles, what we're doing is we're pausing and we're polling each other and we're saying, hey, what are you feeling now? When you said that, I noticed you get tense. What was that? And what it's doing is it's bringing my active awareness into my feeling sense, and I'm checking in with myself. And then I'm getting to hear another man do the same thing. And so when you do this with 6 or 10 men in a circle for 8 weeks in a row, you start to increase your emotional granularity, your emotional vocabulary, your emotional attunement, your emotional agility, your ability to notice emotional contagion, and your ability to get to a present state of a calm mind. And these are all the components of emotional awareness that we physically practice.
Yeah. So, for maybe me to restate it to help me understand, a
Yeah.
feeling would be something like this kind of nervous electric pumping in my chest. And then my emotion that I associated is maybe anger. I'm angry at my partner. So it's how I'm interpreting it, or is it?
I didn't answer that totally. So I didn't finish that question for you then. So an emotion is the physical sensation, and our feeling is our label of the emotional
So
experience.
it's the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. So the feeling is literally our vocabulary word, right? So if I say I feel stressed or I feel anxious, we call those weasel words. They're words that we use to hide from our emotional awareness. So if I feel stressed, I could label that same, like, what is a sensation you feel when you feel stressed physically that you notice?
Yeah, I'd say a tightness a tightness in different parts of my body. It's like shoulder for sure. I also notice my head almost always is like forward, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm hunched.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, my shoulders. I noticed that I hit my keyboard hard, right? Things like that. Also, rumination in my mind. I'll notice that I can't let a certain thought go. And so, if we notice a man in the group say, "I feel stressed," we'll ask him to label it using a different word, 3 different words. So maybe I feel overwhelmed, I feel rushed, and I feel confused. Right? These are very different labels for the same physical experience. And then what it does is it gives the mind something constructive that it can do in relation to that. Whereas there's nothing that the mind can do. It's a dead end for stress and anxiety.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it, for me personally, having conversations like that and breaking down the different definitions helped with what I've heard as a secondary emotion, like a reaction to my feeling, which is
Yes.
like the worst thing you can have. It's
Yeah.
like I feel really upset and now I'm angry at myself for being upset, right?
Yeah.
So I think like
Yeah.
breaking the layers
It's the
more of
worst and the
now.
best though, right? Because it's
Yeah.
also our pathway out. And so that's what we call it, your relationship with your experience, where it's wanting an experience to be different than it is a negative experience, and accepting a negative experience for what is a positive experience. And so oftentimes we in our when we're alone moving throughout our day and when it's high stakes, we are not accepting, we can't accept that the tension in our body because we need to be productive or we need to keep ourselves safe or we have this perception. But in these circles, what we're doing is allowing, opening, breathing into it. And so from that place, when we get to the edge of a challenging emotional experience or we allow whatever emotion to be present, we then will ask something like, oh, what are you feeling now? And oftentimes sharing something that is challenging for us or we perceive to be negative, like our shame or our guilt or our sadness or our rage, the other side of that is joy. Right? It's like, wow, I'm still here and I actually feel lighter. Right. And that's that feeling of feeling lighter. I'll end it there is you actually are lighter because it requires force to hold back these emotions, to suppress and repress them. You're actually more powerful when you learn how to allow them to be processed and released. And this isn't something that we were designed to learn alone. We learn this in a circle. Usually you can only fit about 8 men around a circle. So like it's something that has been like baked into us, and that's what we're doing in these cohorts.
Yeah, great. Thanks. I mean, I had such a great experience with the last cohort, which I think was the second one, and this is the third one coming up. And I could see how these tools, even for myself, going back to the basics that I had learned through that program, as a way of dealing with all these external shifts and stresses that we're going through, like I talked about earlier, in this time of healing and coming back together, because we could either do this not by ourselves, we could just like explode back to normal life, or we can slowly open back up and be conscious during that experience and be like, oh, how do I bring these friendships back? How do I bring back the level of speed and the level of my life that I want to moving forward? So I can see this emotional awareness training being super helpful for that.
Yeah. Or even like, how do I move through this? That's one of the things I'm noticing that we say a lot is like, we're not here to not have problems. We're here to learn how to show up to our challenges in different ways. And like this challenge, I mean, I'm with you, man. Like everything is opening up. I just noticed friends like aren't available for the next 6 weeks that were once the only people we hung out with, right? And it's becoming intense and traffic is increasing. And I would say that having this space to practice and to increase my emotional agility is giving the tools to be able to respond to those challenges in a more empowering way. And because I wouldn't want to judge whether you're going full blast into this or whether you're choosing to come in a more conscious, slow way. Either one, whichever one works for you, right? It's how we respond to those challenges that I think is really neat.
Wow, I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe just tell me a little about the Cohort 3, which is coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one is Cohort 3, leveraging the power of spirituality to become unshakable. We're going to bring in more, we're going to build on the building blocks of our fundamentals of emotional awareness, the primary structure of training every Thursday, neurosomatic breath work available 3 times a week, and then check-in men's groups where we practice. That hasn't shifted, but where we're bringing it, and maybe it's with this time of healing that you're bringing in, it's just like fits the zeitgeist, to use your word, right? I think one of the things that we're building on as a brotherhood is bringing in these fundamentals of spiritual psychology, which are really that at the level of my true self, I am innocent, I am pure. And then I learn all of these unconscious scripting to survive, to get to where I am today. And so learning how to slow down to those challenges that are in my life and show up to them in a more empowering way. Building on those emotional awareness principles. So yeah, the cohort starts April 22nd at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Probably going to be somewhere between 30 and 60 men involved. We go through a training each week. And then we have 7 different check-in men's groups that we can choose to show up to, depending on which one fits our schedule. And we have a healing, releasing, neurosomatic breathwork sessions that we hold at 9:00 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we go through this 8-week experience together and then celebrate at the end. And really, we hold space for any and everything to come up through this experience. And then we just layer in a bunch of emotional awareness and spiritual psychology tools along the way to help us increase our awareness.
Great. Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the time to explore this with me and also give me some vocabulary when I'm talking about the program with my friends and so on. So thanks. Really appreciate it.
Well, Isaac, I really appreciate you bringing me in and creating this space, and I'm loving all of the work you're doing with your deck and with that. And I'm so excited to receive mine and to share this with our cohort and our audience. So thank you so much for holding this space for me.
Yeah.